Nikon. Nikon. What we have here today are two very similar Nikon cameras. When I say very similar, I mean they're both black, electronically controlled cameras with 28mm lenses on them. So let's take the lenses off. This is a Sigma, an old school Sigma 28-28, and this is of course a Tokina EL, very popular brand, I'm sure. Now these two cameras, as mentioned, are very similar, although now they have one less commonality: no lenses. Let's crack into them. This is the Nikon FE, a classic camera from 1978 to 1983 thereabouts. It's the replacement for the Nikon Mat EL2, which is another electronically controlled shutter. This came out, I believe, a year after the FM, which is a mechanical thing, and it does have electronic shutter. There are two mechanical speeds here, both bulb and M90, and the flash sync is 125. There is an auto setting as well, which is an aperture priority, meaning whatever aperture you set, the computing processing in here will say, okay, well, this is the shutter speed to shoot at in order to maintain exposure for that aperture. How you can tell this is an FE is one, the shutter speed dial, top shutter speed in 1000, auto, and bulb M90, which differs from the FN, which does not have an auto setting. It doesn't have a M90 speed either, because it doesn't need a mechanical speed. They're all mechanical speeds. The other thing is this little battery check switch right here. If you have batteries in this camera and you pull down on this, a little red light will illuminate, showing that the battery is in fact working. The other thing is it says FE here at the beginning of your serial number. The FM also says FM right there. There is another little red light indicator here, which is for when your flash is charged. Certain Nikon speed lights would communicate with the camera, meaning you wouldn't have to look up from the viewfinder to see if your flash was charged. You could keep your eye right here because that will illuminate. So that's pretty cool. To open up the back, you've got a little toggle here, and then you just pull up on this mechanism there. Bing, bang, boom. Pretty simple copal shutter in here, pretty simple film mechanism there. Kind of smooth advance with a little ratcheting sound, but pretty nice. The only thing is you can't fire the shutter with this pressed in. It serves as a bit of an on-off switch there. Once you have it pulled out with the little red dot seen, you can then fire. There's a multi-exposure lever right there. If you toggle that, it will prevent the film from advancing, meaning you can stack exposures. You have a stop-down lever right there, a self-timer, lens release, flash sync port, aperture preview window. That's pretty much the FE. Pretty simple, pretty basic, nothing crazy. The FE2 is kind of much of the same. Obviously, you can see it's an FE2 because it says it right there. You have the same stop-down lever, same self-timer, same lens release, same little thing there, same thing there. But there's a few differences on the top. For starters, we have bulb in a mechanical speed of 2/50th of a second, which is notably faster than 1/90th. A flash sync speed of 250, again faster than 125, and it matches up with the mechanical speed. You also have not only a 1/2000th of a second shutter speed, but also a 1/4000th of a second shutter speed, and a green A as opposed to auto, but it's still an aperture priority. Bit of a different shutter button as well. This one has more of a button quality to it as opposed to this, which kind of sits in the welling a little bit. These have the same range of ASAs, which is pretty nice. Same exposure compensation, which is pretty nice. As noted, the top shutter speeds are significantly faster here than they are here, and that is achieved simply with lighter weight titanium shutter blades here. You can see there's a bit of a honeycomb pattern, and another very commonality to this is a little bit of a crinkle. Now, whether that is because somebody decided to just poke around in there, or because of the top speeds kind of crinkling it up. Who's really to say? But that is something that happens with these and the FM2, which have the similar layouts there. So that's something to be on the lookout for. But different shutter construction is another difference. You'll notice that the serial number is in the same placement, although without the FM, or without the FE, because obviously it's on the front. The film back is also a little bit different. This one has a bit more niceties to it. This one's a little bit more metal, utilitarian. The bottom plate, though, is ostensibly the same thing. You have your rewind button there. You have your advanced contacts for a motor drive system. And you also have a small thing there to make sure that your flash is indeed working. There is no battery check light as there is on the FE. Don't know really why that is, but it doesn't exist, so you don't have to worry about it. Still an aperture preview window, which is a really nice quality of life thing. Now, this was released in 1983 on the tail end of the production of the Nikon FE standard, and this serves as a nice next step for the brand. There are some quality of life changes, there's some optimizations happening, and just overall improvements, including but not limited to the shutter speed and, of course, the shutter itself, although that would prove to be a bit of an Achilles heel in the future. Now, if we take that, compare it to, well, try to compare it to this monstrosity that I've created, which will be featured in an upcoming video, so don't worry about that. This is, of course, the FM2, which is the mechanical version of the FE2. We have some similarities, one being the shutter, roughly the same shutter system, although this is mechanically controlled as opposed to this, which is electronically controlled, obviously with the M and the E. You also have stop-down lever, aperture preview window, pretty much the same Nikon nameplating in the front. Everything about this camera is ostensibly the same, except for the qualities of this being all mechanical. But you have a flashing speed of 200, and the ASA ISO control is located over here as opposed to the opposite side of the camera, meaning it's all kind of in one controlled thing. This also has a top ISO sensitivity of 64 as opposed to 32 like these, and this still serves as an on-off mechanism. The other difference between the FE and the FE2 is that there's no red dot there. Not that that matters at all. And then I guess the other thing is the focus mark is on this side, and on the FM2 it's on this side, because not that anyone would ever care about that, but that's another fun fact if you're at trivia night or whatever. That is the difference between the FE, FE2, and then to a lesser extent FM2. Not a whole lot really to talk about more than that. I think the other interesting things is that it maintains the exact same screw positions, which is 3 on the top portion here and then 2 on the side. I find that interesting. Ostensibly the same, the weight is ostensibly the same. Minor differences, of course, to the shutter, minor differences, of course, to other things. It's a very similar model throughout, and a very interesting thing to talk about nonetheless. So now I'm going to put the lenses back on these cameras, and stay tuned for an upcoming video on that really busted looking FM2, and this FE2 should be out in the next little bit. Should be a lot of fun and hopefully just a little bit educational. So hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to like the video if you did, subscribe to the channel so you can learn more very useful facts about very specific cameras that nobody will ever ask you questions about. Great way to make friends, I promise. Subscribe to the channel, appreciate that support, and stay tuned for all sorts of upcoming videos you don't want to miss out. I have so much on the horizon that I think you'll really enjoy. Thank you again. I'll catch you on the next one.